Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mo Money School, the school that teaches you everything that the school system should have taught you. I'm your professor, Chris Mo. For those of you who are new and haven't enrolled into my class, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. That way you're alerted whenever I upload a new video. And if you haven't done so already, go ahead and smash that like button. That way you can help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and we can help out more people, and we can teach them exactly everything that the school system didn't teach you. And for today's episode, we're going to be talking about the truth about Credit Karma. A lot of you have probably heard me mention Credit Karma a lot. Credit Karma, Credit Karma, Credit Karma. You should be checking your credit on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, or on a yearly basis minimum. Credit, as I mentioned before, is really important. Now, there's many ways to go ahead and monitor your credit, but Credit Karma is one of the most simplest ways that you can go ahead and check and monitor your credit. That way you don't fall behind and you're able to play this game of life correctly. A lot of you are probably familiar with this third-party app. Now, Credit Karma, for those of you who aren't aware, it's a third-party company that helps keep consumers track of their credit score. Unfortunately, a lot of people are skeptical about whether they should go ahead and use a third-party app, whether they should put their information online, and want to see whether they can actually trust a company like theirs. The way we're going to go ahead and tackle this down is through a Q&A session. This Q&A session is going to be used with questions that majority of consumers have when they first confront Credit Karma. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So for the first question, what do they do? What does Credit Karma do? For those of you who are familiar or have downloaded the app, you know that Credit Karma just makes it simple and easier for consumers to check their credit. You see, Credit Karma has an ideology. They believe that if consumers check their credit on a consistent basis with no charge at all, that they're going to be able to pay off their debt, go ahead and have a higher credit score, and live the life that they want to go ahead and live. You see, whenever you apply for credit, it goes into a report card. This report card tells all these banking and lending institutions how financially responsible you are. You see, one of the common fallacies that people have is the fact that they're not able to pay their bills on time, they're not able to keep track of things. So Credit Karma has made it easier for the average consumer to keep track of their credits and keep track of their payments. That way, they know their credit score, as well as being able to help them build it up as well. Now, Credit Karma, what they go ahead and do is they let the consumer go ahead and get their credit score absolutely free. You see, Credit Karma has created their platform where people are able to log in and check their credit score on a weekly basis. So if they're allowing everybody to check their credit score for free, how do they make money? Do they charge on the app? No, the app is absolutely free. Do they charge on a monthly subscription? No, it's absolutely free. Literally, Credit Karma is absolutely free. You can download the app for free. You can check your credit score for free. But how do they make money? Well, first of all, I tell all my students that nothing in life is free. You always pay for something in one way or another. You see, Credit Karma is a for-profit business. The way they make money is through one of the most powerful methods of payment: information. Right now, the most powerful method of payment is information. It's knowledge. Knowledge is so powerful in this world. So you see, Credit Karma, even though they allow you to check your credit score, they grab your personal information and they sell it to other banking institutions. On top of that, they offer you credit cards and loans. That way they can get a referral fee. They can get a commission off of everybody who they send towards another banking institutions. That's how they make money. They make money off of your information. However, how accurate is your credit score? Can you really trust Credit Karma to go ahead and give you the correct credit score? Because that's one of the questions that a lot of people have. Now, one of the common fallacies that a lot of people have is the fact that Credit Karma doesn't tell them their correct credit score. which is fairly true. But before we get into that, I want to share a quote that I found on Investopedia about the chief consumer of Credit Karma. And what he had to say was, the scores and credit report information on Credit Karma comes from TransUnion and Equifax, two of the three major credit bureaus. We provide Vantage Score credit scores independently from both credit bureaus. Credit Karma chose Vantage Score because it's a collaboration among all three major credit bureaus and is a transparent scoring model which can help consumers better understand changes to their credit score. Now, what does this all mean? What is he saying? What is this chief telling us? He said two, aren't there three? Didn't I tell you in the last video that there were three credit bureaus? What? What does this mean? What is he saying? Is he saying that he's only getting information from two people and not the third person? Vantage Score? I thought we were using a FICO score. Hold on. Before I explain that to you, you need to know something. You need to know that, first of all, there's a FICO score and there's a Vantage score. What's the difference between these two? Now, majority of people don't know that your credit score is not just one credit score. These three credit bureaus don't use the same credit score. There's multiple types of credit scores. In fact, there's multiple software upgrades. It's like having an iOS 10 upgraded to an iOS 11. The same thing happens with a Vantage score and a FICO score. They each have their upgrades, and each of these three credit bureaus each have a different score method. So how do we keep track? Well, individually, these three credit bureaus each use their own scoring method. Some of them go from 0 to 800, I don't know. It's too crazy and too much to keep track. To make this whole entire process easier, because the three credit bureaus really believe that people should know their credit score. That way we cannot go into debt. That way people live a better life and they pay off their debt and they have everything that they want. So what they did is they came into a collaboration. They created something called the Vantage score. The Vantage score is not used by many banks, but it's used as a collaboration between these three credit bureaus that goes ahead and for some magical mathematical thing, they created a system where they'll work together and they'll give you a score. There's a variety of credit scores. You see, credit scores work the same way as an iPhone upgrade. You know, whenever you upgrade your phone, you have an iOS 11, and from that iOS 11, you have 11.1, and before the iOS 11.1, you had an iOS 10, and you have a variety of upgrades all the time, but you also have Android at the same time. The way you want to think about the FICO score and the Vantage score is the same way you think about an Android and an Apple phone. You see, Androids and iPhones each have an upgrade. You see, you want to go ahead and consider Vantage score as an Android and FICO score as an Apple phone. Now, it doesn't make any difference. There's just two different models. And in between those models, there's upgrades, just like FICO and Vantage. Now, I don't know what 4.0, 3.0 they're at, but they keep upgrading the system. Each of these three credit bureaus each have their own scoring system for each and every one of you. They don't all use the 300 to 850 score. They don't. They each keep track of your information differently. But majority of banks, however, use the FICO score. Professor, so are you telling me that each of these three credit bureaus each have an independent credit score for myself? Yes. The simple answer is yes. Each of these three credit bureaus, which I don't know what kind of system that they go ahead and use, each have an independent score for each and every one of you. They came into a collaboration to create the Vantage score to make it easier for the average consumer to know their credit score. Now, majority of these banks, they use the FICO score credit score. And even then, they have levels and upgrades on that FICO score system. There's so many scores to keep track that I tell everybody, at the end of the day, just follow the main determining factors that make up your credit score and you'll have a good score. Now, one of the questions that I get from my students all the time is, can it hurt me? Can it hurt my credit score? First of all, when it comes to protection, we live in a world where technology runs our lives. Hackers are hacking into everything they possibly can. Now, can your information be hacked? Can your identity be stolen? Your identity can be stolen at all times, which is why it's always important to go ahead and have extra security on all your information, as well as keeping track of where you're putting your information as well. Now, can this hurt your credit score? No, it's not going to hurt your credit score. If you go onto the app and you see your score, it's not going to hurt your credit score. And the reason for that is because instead of it being a hard inquiry, it's actually considered a soft inquiry. The way you can think about a soft and a hard inquiry is think of it like this. A soft inquiry is someone that's just checking the address of where you live. A hard inquiry is having somebody come into you where you live and looking at your stuff. You see, one of them is more upsetting than the other. That's how you should think of it. But besides that, it doesn't hurt your credit score. So majority of you might be thinking, Credit Karma sounds amazing. It sounds free. I want it. What are the limitations? Well, there's some pros and there's cons, right? Now, for the first con that I want to go ahead and tell you about is the fact that Credit Karma only uses 2 of the 3 major credit bureaus. So if they're only using 2 of the 3 major credit bureaus, that means one of them is missing out. One of them is not reporting your information. And remember how I told you that if you apply for a credit card, you apply for a loan, and one of the 3 credit bureaus isn't informed about it, that can affect your score as well. So since they're lacking that other 1/3 of the credit bureau, your credit score is not always going to be on point. Now, on top of that, these 2 credit bureaus are using a vantage score, not the FICO score. So whenever people look at their credit score, it may be a little different from their real score. So whenever people apply for a credit card or a loan, they may be thinking, hey, I'm going to go ahead and get approved for this because Credit Karma says I have good credit. But when they check their FICO score, they're 100 points under. And the reason for this is because it's only 2 credit bureaus reporting that credit score. And the banking institution might be using a FICO score. Secondly, Credit Karma only updates their score once a week. So even though we have access to this app on a daily basis, they only update your score once a week. So even though you can check this on a daily basis, it's not going to change every single day. But this tool can be used to go ahead and check it at least on a weekly basis and see whether somebody is using your information. So for those of you who are trying to apply for a credit in the upcoming days, you don't want to rely on just Credit Karma because it's not going to be accurate. For those of you who have a while before they apply for their credit, then Credit Karma is a good tool that you can possibly use. And lastly, as I mentioned before, Credit Karma is a for-profit company. All they really care about is making money for themselves. And I tell all my students, a company who's just thinking about profit, a company who's just thinking about sales, all they care about is money that goes into their pocket. They don't care about you. So they're going to do whatever they possibly can to make money, regardless of the consequences that they go ahead and put onto the consumer. I mean, Credit Karma also has some pros. Credit Karma has a lot of calculators on their system. If you download the app, not only are you able to check your credit score, but you'll have access to all these great calculators. You can use the credit score simulator that allows you to simulate if you make a payment or you take out a credit card, see how it's going to affect your credit score, as well as give you a home affordability, see how much you could qualify for a loan. It has a debt repayment calculator, a simple loan, and an amortization calculator. That way you can see how fast it's going to take you to pay off your debt. You see, Credit Karma is just not checking your score. It's really, honestly, trying to help people live a better life, get rid of their debt, and be able to apply for all these great credit cards and loans. So what's my analysis about Credit Karma? At the end of the day, I think Credit Karma is amazing. I think they're doing something that a lot of people did not have the opportunity to do ages ago. Right now, Credit Karma offers you the opportunity to check your credit score. A long time ago, it was only banking information. Now, Credit Karma has made this easier for the average consumer. But Credit Karma should not be the only reliable source you use for your credit score. The way I tell my students is, look, Credit Karma should be downloaded on your phone, but it should be used to keep track of your credit, to monitor your habits, and to see if someone's hacking into your information and stealing your identity. you want to go ahead and use the simulators in case you have any questions about whether you should take out a loan, whether you should apply for another credit card, or how would another payment affect your credit score. That way you can play with your credit score whenever you're trying to apply for a house or a car. You see, Credit Karma is fairly transparent. They're not liars. They're actually trying to help people. They're really trying to help people become better. They're trying to help people build up their credit and pay off debt. But anything that's free comes with a cost, which is why I tell people, even though they recommend you credit cards, even though they recommend you loans, they're not always made for you. Sometimes they're there to make the sale. You want to be aware of that. Don't always try to apply for credit cards and loans through their app directly. Do your own research, figure out what you actually qualify before you use Credit Karma as your recommendation source of whether you're going to get approved for that credit card or that loan. So besides that, guys, that's the end for today's course. The truth about Credit Karma, the pros and cons, and whether or not you should use it. At the end of the day, I highly recommend you check your credit score no matter what you use. But for those of you who enjoyed this video and like this review, go ahead and hit the like button if you haven't done so. And if you haven't enrolled into my class, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. That way you can be alerted whenever I post up another video. And for those of you who want to go ahead and know more of me, you can follow me on my Instagram, follow me on my Twitter, Rise and Grind That Mo. I also have another channel called Chris Mo's Journey, where I just post about my life and any updates here and there. But besides that, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you could DM me or put the comments and questions below. Besides that, everybody, class is dismissed.